Hi, everyone. This may not be our last recording before the end of the year because we are actually doing a road trip together next week. So we get some interesting stuff out of that. Today, we have been talking about control and trying to control things and then how to let go of that. And in our conversation before the session here, we were saying that it's funny how these things just keep coming up and the lessons keep coming up for you. And we've got to be aware enough about what's coming up for us and why it's coming up as to what's happening.
Yeah. I think that's the important for me is there is a framing to life that I have grappled with around is life for you. So one of the things I was talking about before is this labeling of life's experience as bad or good, right or wrong, negative or positive. And it's often, if you think about it, it's that negative stuff that happens in the world when people say and do things, or you say and do things that go against your perception of how you want to be, or your image or identity of who you want to be, or your image and identity and expectation of how you want others to behave. And in doing that, that creates a response that is often about things not wanting to be how you want them to be. And that's what we want to explore today, and the lessons that can be drawn from it. So maybe you want to talk about your week and what prompted this.
Yeah,
sure. To ground all that.
Just before that, I hope you're enjoying our cheesy Christmas visuals in the background. We thought we'd go try and find the cheesiest one that we could possibly think of. And other than playing the Christmas music, I think we've got it.
Well, cheesy is just putting a bow on top of a television.
Yeah, with a fireplace. Fireplace in the middle of Australia. At what's 20 odd degrees now. So
And for those of you who are listening to this, if it's audio, you can just imagine it, right? It's super cheesy.
Exactly. Yeah. So this has been coming up quite a bit over the last 18, 19 months, but it came back with a force this week. I have an Airbnb apartment that I host, and I've had some issues with cockroaches, which sounds terrible, but I know that it's not a cleanliness thing because we just spent another 4 days going through and doing another deep clean.
Well, I think just going to the levels of that too, which is, cockroaches aren't nice and whatever, but when you host an Airbnb, they're a problem because people cancel their stay.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so that's what's happened. And initially when that happened, I took it personally. It was like, well, the cleanliness is on me then, I'm not doing my job. And I've had to work through that this week from a number of different angles. And one of them is actually going back and helping clean all week to make sure that I'm confident that it's not the cleanliness. And I know it's not. And I've had pest control people in all sorts of everything that we could do that's in our control. We did. But that really brought to the fore the expectations of what you think you can control and the impact of it. It's been a really
few days you were completely out of control.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like, I'm not good enough. So that came up, impending doom. What happens if this just happens all the time? And
changes.
And my Airbnb goes out the window. All these sorts of things are just like, even my self-confidence, all those things are just crazy.
Most of these things for me, they begin as an event, but then they become this sort of psychosocial loop that happens in your mind.
Yeah.
So your mind responds and you start thinking these thoughts like, fuck, is this my life now? Or is this going to happen again?
Yeah.
And then from that thought comes an emotion of dread, of shame, of guilt. And those emotions then become a body response. They actually then come into your body, and then that body response affects your mood. And suddenly you're walking around like
Yeah.
hopeless.
Yeah, hopeless, or in my case, a couple of times agitated.
Agitation.
That I had to move, and and then I started to feel sick with it. It's just like, oh no, this is not good for me. I get that, but the trick is to find a way to let go of that control, and that's the real difficult thing.
Well, one of the things we talked about before was that there is, in the personal development world, there's also this concept of surrender. And what surrender is essentially surrendering your own psychological attachment to what happens in your life. And so not expecting things to be the way you want them, but just allowing life to be what it is in every single moment. And the thing about what I've learned about surrender is that surrender also has a boundary, in the sense that surrender doesn't mean that you live a passive life. It doesn't mean that you don't do anything. And in Kevin's case, it wouldn't mean that he goes, well, fuck it, I'm not going to do anything about the cockroaches. Just going to surrender to the cockroaches. That's not practical for him, because if he doesn't get the Airbnb things sorted, he's going to get no cash in. We're going away next week. That would have impacted that. It's just not practical. So surrender doesn't mean that you don't do anything. Yeah. What it's talking about is that the universe is teaching you a lesson to be aware of what you can and can't control, and to do what you can, and then to let go of the rest. And so it's closely linked to this ability to trust yourself, but also trust that broader world, that things will turn out okay in the end.
Yeah.
But you do need to do what you can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that led us onto me looking back at the Human Being book around the ways of being, and rereading the chapter on forgiveness.
Yeah.
So forgiveness is for yourself more than the other people, and it's just the idea is to forgive yourself and let things go, because it's really you're the one that's getting messed up by holding on to stuff or trying to control things, and it doesn't work. You feel a lot freer by letting go.
What for you then? So think about when you're triggered into this control spiral, whatever it is, could be the house, could be relationship, whatever it is. Can you explain what you think might be the linkage between forgiveness and what happens to you?
It would be ancestral for a start, but back in my growing up days, trauma in the family unit, that sort of stuff, that I still I do feel that I didn't do enough in the situation, and I know that's not the case, but to get past that is another thing.
Can you forgive yourself for that?
Yeah, and I did. I went to a intuitive masseuse last year, and we did a lot of visualization, and around looking back at myself and forgiving my younger self forgiving me, and also then visualizing a campfire and just see who turns up. And through that process, the people that turned up, we talked to each other and forgave each other, and then they left. So that was really powerful, actually. So there was, I guess, a starting point of reflecting that far back. I'm a very practical person, so previously I hadn't done too much of that. So that was the good thing. The other thing we touched on too, as part of the forgiveness, it's also loving yourself, getting to love yourself for who you are and who you want to be if you want to make changes. That's what we all try to better ourselves in one way or the other. So that came into it as well.
And I think I agree. And I think I also talked about my, Kevin and I share a history, it sounds like, of self-criticism.
I'm sure we're not alone either.
I think we just talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. We found each other to talk to. Yeah, I think that's even better. Yeah.
No, I think I had very high standards of myself, and I'm very different to that person now. Like I was saying to Kevin, I can hardly think about who that person was that used to do that, because I don't feel like I'm that person anymore. But I know I did it a lot, and it was sport, academics, it was everything. It was, and where I used to criticize myself the most was my interactions with other people and feeling like I'd let people down. I either hadn't said the right thing or done the right thing, and I'd hurt someone in my world.
Yeah.
And I think half the time they just went, that didn't even notice.
No.
I think there were some specific times when I said to people, I'm really sorry. And they're like, for what?
Yeah.
You know,
I've had
like,
that. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Exactly. Yeah.
And I'd inside had this massive, like, internal dialogue about what do I say to them? And I think that for me has been a huge lesson in self-love and self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I think I haven't had cockroaches in my house this week, but I've had enough stuff that's happened in my life that's pointed me towards the same process. And I've, I'm not done or anything, but I feel like it's also saying the same thing, which is your life. Part of what you're here for is to accept who you are as a human being, for everything that you do and for everything that you say. It doesn't mean that you don't try and stop being a better version and being compassionate and empathetic and being open and being there for people in the world and the world itself. But you're not here to criticize yourself, and you're not here to run yourself down, because that doesn't help you and it doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help the people around you. So I think
it is. I don't like cliche words like journey and that sort of stuff, but it really is, and my journey over the last 19 months has been very different to what was in my plans, and just reflecting on all these things and getting reminded of them by different people along the way. Just having people around you that will have these challenging conversations from a compassionate angle, though. Allows you then not to be defensive.
No.
You don't go into that mode. Allows you to be expansive in your thinking and curious about what's turning up. Why is it turning up? Why the week before Christmas am I having these issues when I was actually on leave this week? It hasn't turned out that way. And so I've got to look for the lessons. And that's the big thing for me over the last 19 months is finding the lessons in whatever's going wrong, and also being with the ways of being in forgiveness, love, compassion, all of those, so that you're not spiraling, so that you can handle all these things, knowing that you are who you are and understanding that and being really self-aware around that.
So just imagine that, and if I can imagine myself as there is ancestral things from the past and ways of thinking about myself and being that the universe is kind of going, you know what, that's not helping you. And so you imagine you carry that energy around in your body and you almost attract these experiences.
Absolutely.
That say to you, it's still fucking there. Like it's still happening. It's still there. And then it's saying, can this being go within enough and have enough love for itself that it can accept that and be with that. And when you can, it'll change.
And then you start attracting the abundance.
Start attracting the more. Right?
Absolutely. And I totally get those concepts, and I try and live by them, but it's not easy to do. That's
what we're talking about.
and obviously I'm not there yet, and I never will be there. But I now know that whenever these lessons turn up, I need to reflect again and hold that mirror up and say, okay, what is this telling me? What is it trying to help me see in that I haven't progressed where I thought I might be? Ego can get in the way as well. All those sorts of things.
Ego gets in the way all the time. And I think that's, the answer is the answer. There's multiple answers, but I think that all of the external situations we label as good or bad. And the ones we label as bad or wrong are often the greatest teachers in terms of what we learn within us about who we are, and our ability to love ourselves in a new way often comes from those things that are the hardest. And so if we reframe good or bad to just being experience, and in the experience of life, it's going to point within so that we can expand our sense of who we are in a holistic way.
Yeah.
Then that's really why we're here. You know, and it used to be, the old way was, we're here for all the external stuff.
Yeah.
We're here to have all the external indicators of success, money, you know, family, relationships, house, all that sort of stuff. What if we reframe that to being that actually the external world is to create this greater, wholer sense of who you are internally? And then from that place, you can create whatever you want in the world.
Yeah. And it will create it for you.
That's right.
Yeah. Something came up on social media almost exactly with what you're saying. Is like, what if you think of the bad situations, you know, what we call bad things that are happening to us, as preparation for the good things that are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or and allowing you to release the energies that are keeping those the way they are, so that you can,
Yeah, but you know, it is difficult. It is really difficult sometimes, and I had my moments through the week. Yeah, so you got to allow that too. That's love. That's love for yourself. Let yourself release the whatever it is that needs to be released, the emotion, the feeling, whatever it is, and don't beat yourself up about that. Yeah.
So I think take from this what you will. The only other message I've got is for everyone to have a very Merry Christmas. You'll probably watch this after Christmas anyway, but hey, I just want to say it because it's this time of year, and I think we've probably done 5-6 episodes, but thoroughly enjoying doing this.
Yeah,
and hope you're all getting a lot from it.
Yeah, that just reminded me too. We've recorded these episodes, and we were going to do a masterclass together with a group of people this week to be able to put the stuff up on YouTube. And that's another one of the pieces of control that I had let go. I had to say, can't do it. And it took an effort, but it was the right thing. You know, we just couldn't fit it in. Yeah.
We'll get there.
So have a great festive season, holidays, whatever you do. And we'll talk again soon.
Okay.
Bye for now.